Hi everybody, welcome back. So this is my introductory video to my new makeup challenge that I'm setting myself this year. Now I did previously put up a video where I spoke about what I was thinking about doing, and it seemed like a lot of you agreed that it was a good idea, and I feel very comfortable doing this project as well. I don't feel like it's going to be too overwhelming, so I'm going to stick with it. And it's a new series on my channel, and I'm going to be doing monthly updates like I do with my project pan as well. So in that previous video where I spoke about the pan in every eyeshadow palette challenge that I'm going to set myself, I did talk through the colours. So I'm going to be doing a similar thing today. I'm going to talk about the colours again and share some starting pictures of the pans that I'm going to work on. So the reason I decided to do this challenge is that I feel like I've got a lot of eyeshadows, and I've got a lot of eyeshadows that don't have any pan in them. I only have one pan in an eyeshadow, and that's the eyeshadow that I was panning last year, and that's the only one. But there are quite a few eyeshadows where I've got really good dips going on in them, so the aim for this challenge is to just get more pans in my eyeshadows, get them all used a bit more often. So for the eyeshadows that I want to pan, once I have hit pan in them, I'm going to work on a different colour within that palette. And the way that I have chosen the eyeshadows is I've kind of chosen the shades that have the biggest pan in them, but also try to get a good colour story going on. So I've decided not to pan every single matte ivory shade that I own, or every single, you know, warm brown crease shade that I own. I've tried to switch up the colours as well so I can wear them all together to create an eyeshadow look, which is what I have done today. So if we start off with the Vieve eyeshadow palettes that I've got two of them. First up is Essentials. This is one of my favourite eyeshadow palettes. I absolutely love it. Love the colour story. Love that it's a warm, neutral, everyday palette, my kind of palette. Now the shade that I've decided to include is this one here called Buff, and this is my standard crease shade. Really good colour to work as a crease shade, but also really nice all over the lids as well. So this is a shadow that should hopefully be getting a lot of use. And I do have a little dip in it. I think that might be from my fingernail rather than me actually using this loads and loads of times. Now these pans are huge. They're all 3.1 grams. So I think this one, although it's going to be a shade I'm going to use very frequently, I don't think it's a shade I'm going to hit pan on anytime soon. I reckon this will be in the last half of the year that I will start to kind of hit pan on this one, because it's just such a big pan. So anyway, this is shade number 1. Now from my next Vieve palette, this is the Muse palette. This is one of the shades that I have on today. I decided to include the shade Regal, which is this sparkly purple one. This is what I've got on the outer corner of my eye, and I think this was one of the shades that was part of my eyeshadow roulette video last year, so that is why this one has quite a good dip going on in it. So this one is a little bit of a challenge because I don't really wear eyeshadow like this on a day-to-day basis. This is quite dark and I don't really tend to go for purples anyway. So this one will be a little bit of a tricky one for me to pan, and again this will probably be a pan in the last 6 months of the year, but I have kind of included this as like my focus palette for this month. This is the palette that's in my Shop My Stash, so I'm hoping to get some good progress on this shade this month. Next I've got two ABH palettes. First up is Modern Renaissance, and the one that I have decided to include is Buon Fresco. This is a matte cool toned lilac, and this is the one that I've got in my crease today, and this shade had a really good dip in it, but also so did a few others in here actually. Tempera did, Vermeer did, Primavera did, but I thought Buon Fresco, because it's got a good dip and because it's a shade that's not really in any of my other palettes, this would be a good one to go for because it works well with Regal from Muse, and also another shade that I have on my eyes as well. So the one from Modern Renaissance is Buon Fresco. Next up is Norvina, and the shade that I am going to pan is Rose Gold. So it's this one here, and this is the one that I've got on the vast majority of my lid, and this pairs really well with Buon Fresco in the crease and Regal, so that's why I have gone for this look today, to showcase that I am trying to choose shades that work well together. And apart from Dreamer down here, Rose Gold was the only shade that I had a really good dip on, and I think this was because this was another shade that was included in my eyeshadow roulette last year, so that was an obvious choice for me to include. Next is my one and only eyeshadow duo by Nars in the shade Isolde. Beautiful little duo. I absolutely love this duo. I love the colour, I love the formulation, it's so buttery, so pigmented, my kind of shades, and this was part of my Shop My Stash last month in December. The shade that I'm going to choose is the left hand side one. I use a lot more of this one in comparison to the right hand shade side. This one on the left hand side I wear all over the lid, and then I darken it up a little bit with that one. So I do have a good dip going on in this one, and because this one is my kind of shade, I'm hoping that I can use this one up fairly quickly, hit pan in it fairly quickly rather, hopefully in the first 6 months. Next is my Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, and there were a couple of shades in here that I could have chose these first two ones here, but the one that I have decided to include is Chaser, which is the matte ivory shade. This is the one I have set my eyeshadow primer with today, and I reckon this is the first shade that I am going to hit pan on because I've got a really good dip going on in it. It's really kind of like sunk in the middle, and I can wear this with every makeup look that I wear. If I go really minimal, I can wear it. I've also worn it as a base today, so it just works with so many different makeup colours. So I am placing my bet that this is going to be the first one that I'm going to hit pan on, and then I will have to choose another one in here. Not sure which one yet, but that is for another day, that decision. And then I have two face and eye palettes from Laura Geller. First one, TGI Thursday, and the one that I've used the most in this palette is this shade here, which is Toasted Taupe. This is a beautiful all over the lid shade. It's a bit sultry, a bit smoky, so it's kind of like a date night type of eyeshadow look, so not one that I'm going to be wearing that frequently. And I also think this one is a little bit tricky to pair with some of the other ones. The matte ivory, that would be absolutely fine, but to pair this one with some of the other more colourful shades is going to be a bit tricky. So I think this is probably going to be the last one that I hit pan on. Also as well, because I haven't really used this palette too much because it is those darker shades. Lovely shades though, I like all the shades, which is why it's still in my collection, but I just don't tend to wear it that often because I tend to go for more of a natural pared back look. And then the next one is the Sunday Fun Day. My kind of shades in this one, warm oranges, browns, coppers, bronzes. And the shade that I've decided to include is this shimmery yellow gold one here called Golden Girl. This is the one I've got under the brow bone and in the inner corners of my eyes. And this, along with the shade from the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, is probably a shade I'm going to use regardless of the makeup look that I'm creating. However, because this one I'll primarily use as an accent one, so inner corners under the brow bone, I'm not going to end up using a lot of it. So I will probably hit pan in this sort of like halfway throughout the year maybe, but I've got a little dip going on at the moment, so it's not too bad. Now I do also have two other eyeshadow palettes in my collection, but I bought them in the last couple of months of last year, so because they are pretty new, I don't want to be including them in this series yet. They'll probably make an appearance from halfway through the year, but because they are new, there is no kind of urgency to start hitting pan in any of them, like with my older palettes that I've just spoken about. So the first one is this Revolution one. It's an ABH sultry dupe. It's the Revolution Reloaded Hypnotic palette. Lovely warm shades. You've got a couple of cool shades going on in there as well, but overall you can make mostly sort of like warm looks with this one. Really nice selection of like coffees, bronzes, chocolates, browns, and you've got some shimmery ones and some matte ones in there. So that's the first eyeshadow palette I'm not going to include. And then the next one is a dupe for ABH Soft Glam. It is my Wet n Wild My Glamour Squad palette. Love this one. So warm, so brown and orange. Beautiful shades. Again, some mattes and some shimmers in here. So this is another one that I'm not going to work on yet. And then I do also have some singles in my collection. I've got 3 new singles that I bought during Black Friday. Again, because they're new, there's no urgency to start hitting pan in any of them. But I do also have some MAC and Makeup Geek singles. The MAC ones I've probably had since about 2015, 2016, so they are quite old. And actually the Makeup Geek ones aren't far behind that. Now I have hit pan in one of them, which is this one here, MAC Shroom. That was in my Project Pan last year. So I have grouped all of my single eyeshadows together and I've classified it as one palette. So because I have hit pan in MAC Shroom, I have hit pan in my eyeshadow single palette. So I'm not going to be including any other of my singles yet. I will probably include one of them once I start to include one from these two other eyeshadow palettes. So my focus at the moment is on my Eyeshadow Duo and my other eyeshadow palettes that I don't have any pans in. So I've got my notepad here where I write down all of my products that are in my project pan, shop my stash, etc. And I have written down the palettes and the eyeshadow shades that I'm working on. I am filming this on the 2nd and I've used all of them so far this year, bar the Nars shade and the TGI Thursday Toasted Taupe shade from the Laura Geller palette. So I'm hoping that having them written down provides me with that kind of constant reminder to use a few of them every day. And I am going to be taking monthly pictures to show my progress. So hoping to get some good progress on like the shimmery golden yellow shade and also the matte ivory shade from the Urban Decay Naked Heat one. But some of the others, I think it might take a little bit longer to start to see progress in them. So that is my challenge that I've set myself for this year. Out of the eyeshadow palettes that I've spoken about in today's video, I'm aiming to have at least one pan in them by the end of this year. So please let me know if you've done a similar project challenge to this. And I hope you liked it, I hope you found it interesting. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Please also subscribe if you haven't as well. It really would be lovely to have you here on my channel. And I will see you again very soon for my next one. Have a lovely rest of your day, guys. See you soon.